They'll smile to your face and poison your name. They'll doubt your dreams, mock your fire, and pray for your failure. But you weren't built to break. You were built to rise, to lead, and to dominate even in front of toxic people. This is not about avoiding them. This is about outgrowing them. About standing so tall that their poison evaporates in your presence. This is your power. These are your laws. They say you should play small to keep the peace. Smile when you're disrespected. Lower your voice so they feel heard. Shrink a little so they feel bigger. And for a while, maybe you believed that. Maybe you thought being the bigger person meant swallowing your fire so someone else wouldn't feel the heat. But let's get one thing clear right now: you weren't born to shrink. You weren't designed to play it safe. Your purpose, your potential, your presence, it was made to be felt. And if that threatens someone's comfort zone, good. That means you're finally stepping into your power. Toxic people don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you remind them of everything they're not willing to become. Your drive exposes their laziness. Your ambition exposes their excuses. Your confidence threatens the mask they wear. They will try to shrink you. Not by attacking you outright, but by using subtle digs, fake concern, and guilt trips dressed as advice. Don't be too much. You're so intimidating. You've changed. Of course you've changed. That's what growth looks like. You're not meant to be palatable for people who refuse to evolve. Stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand you. When you lower your energy to make someone else comfortable, you don't just betray your potential, you delay your destiny. Every time you hold back your voice to avoid upsetting someone, you dilute your truth. Every time you hide your gifts to avoid jealousy, you deny the world the very reason you were sent here. You think you're being kind, but what you're really doing is self-abandonment. And make no mistake, shrinking doesn't keep the peace. It just quiets the war inside you. The real peace comes when you show up as all of you, unapologetically. Greatness was never designed to be subtle, and neither were you. If your strength makes others uncomfortable, that's not your problem, it's their opportunity to rise. And if they choose not to, let them stay where they are. You do not owe anyone your dimmed-down version. You were not put on this earth to maintain other people's illusions of power. You were born to build your own. And sometimes that means standing tall in rooms where people would rather see you silent. Good. Let them watch. Let them choke on their judgment from the well of your own authenticity. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: people will resent you for healing what they still suffer from. You'll be judged for walking away when they stay stuck. Criticized for dreaming bigger when they've settled for less. They will call your confidence arrogance, your success luck, your clarity cold. Let them. Because what they call too much is exactly what makes you unstoppable. You weren't made to survive their opinions. You were made to outgrow them. And the minute you stop needing their validation is the minute you become dangerous to every system that depends on your silence. Stop making your greatness negotiable. Stop waiting for permission to be whole. You don't need to justify your dreams. You don't need to tone down your truth. If they wanted to feel powerful, they had the same 24 hours as you. And if they chose excuses over evolution, that's on them. You're not arrogant for knowing your worth. You're not too much for wanting more. You're awake. You're aware. You're aligned. So no, don't shrink to make others comfortable. Grow so boldly, so unapologetically that their only choice is to rise with you or fall behind. Either way, you move forward. There's a power that comes when you stop answering every insult with a reaction. When you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's when you begin to master the art of silent dominance. Toxic people thrive on chaos. They want your attention, your energy, your outrage. They want to pull you into their drama so they can control your narrative. But when you choose silence, not the silence of defeat, but the silence of self-control, you take their power away. You stop playing their game and start writing your own rules. And that right there terrifies them. People confuse silence with weakness. They think if you're not shouting back, you've got nothing to say. But silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. It's choosing not to feed the fire they keep trying to ignite. Because the truth is, some people don't want resolution, they want reaction. They don't want understanding, they want dominance. And the second you give them that emotional response, they win. But when you meet their chaos with calm, when you face their venom with indifference, they lose their grip. They realize they can't move you. And nothing drives a toxic person crazier than realizing they have no power over your peace. You don't need to defend every rumor, respond to every jab, or clarify every twisted story. The moment you realize that truth doesn't need your defense, you become dangerous. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them bend bills. Because while they're busy creating noise, we're building legacy. Every second spent trying to prove your worth is a second stolen from your growth. Silent dominance means you don't waste your voice in rooms where your presence is already too loud. It means knowing who you are so deeply, you don't flinch when someone else tries to define you. Silent strength is choosing restraint over revenge. It's choosing progress over pettiness. It's not about letting people walk all over you, it's about walking away with your dignity intact. Toxic people want you to lower yourself. They want you to come down to their level so they can say, "See, you're just like me." Don't give them that satisfaction. Your silence isn't weakness, it's evolution. It's proof that you've outgrown the need to prove. And when you've truly stepped into your power, you stop entertaining every attack. You learn that not every war is worth fighting, especially when the battle is beneath you. Some people provoke just to see if they still have access to you. They'll throw shade, stir drama, even act like victims, just to bait you into a response. And when you don't give it, they panic. Because silence to the toxic feels like abandonment. It feels like rejection. And they'll do anything to pull you back into the emotional prison you escaped from. But that's where your discipline comes in. Your ability to stay grounded, stay unmoved, stay focused, stay your superpower. Because while they crave chaos, you've chosen clarity. And clarity doesn't argue. It builds. It moves forward without noise. Silent dominance is about muting your voice, it's about amplifying your power. It's knowing that not all battles need to be fought in the open. Sometimes the greatest power is in choosing peace over performance. Choosing to walk through storms without flinching. Choosing to let your results scream where your voice doesn't need to. When you live with intention and act with purpose, your presence becomes louder than any response. And that's when you become truly untouchable, not because you shouted louder, but because you didn't need to owe. Toxic people aren't confused about your boundaries, they're offended by them. They know exactly what they're doing when they cross the line, push your limits, and test your patience. Because to them, control is comfort. Your silence is their playground. But the moment you draw a clear boundary, the moment you say, "This is where I end," and you do not begin, they get uncomfortable. Good. Let them. Boundaries aren't walls built out of fear, they are gates built out of power. They are not about shutting people out, they are about protecting what you've worked so hard to build inside. You see, toxic people don't just want your time, they want your peace. They want access to your emotions, your reactions, your mind. And if you let them, they will bleed you dry with their demands, their chaos, their endless need for validation. But here's the truth, you cannot be everything to everyone and still survive. You cannot constantly overextend yourself just to keep the peace. Because what starts as selflessness will turn into self-destruction. Boundaries are the antidote. They are how you teach the world how to treat you. If you don't set them, someone else will, and it won't be in your favor. They call you difficult when you say no. They'll call you cold when you stop explaining yourself. And they'll definitely call you selfish when you stop sacrificing your sanity to meet their needs. What they call selfish is actually self-honor. It's choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to choose them. And no, it won't always feel comfortable. There will be guilt, hesitation, second guessing. That's normal. But discomfort is not the enemy, disrespect is. And when you let guilt dictate your boundaries, you toxic people the keys to your life. Shut the door. Lock it. And don't apologize for protecting your peace. Boundaries are not about anger, they're about clarity. You don't need to shout to draw a line. You don't need to explain your every move. A firm no is a complete sentence. A lack of response is a response. The strongest boundaries are often silent. They are felt, not announced. When you say less and do more, when you stop over-explaining and start enforcing, people begin to respect the space you create. Not because they want to, but because they have no choice. And the ones who truly value you, they won't see your boundaries as rejection. They'll see them as strength. The truth is, setting boundaries reveals everything. It exposes who's with you because they respect you, and who's with you because they can manipulate you. Some people will leave when you enforce your standards. Let them. Don't chase after those who only valued your compliance, not your wholeness. Their exit is not a loss, it's a revelation. Because the more you honor your boundaries, the more your circle evolves. You stop attracting leeches and start attracting leaders. You stop tolerating energy drainers and start connecting with people who give as much as they take. You are not here to be a doormat for broken people. You are not here to sacrifice your joy for someone else's comfort. You are here to live with intention, power, and alignment. That requires boundaries. Strong ones. The kind that protect your focus, your time, your values. The kind that keep toxicity outside your gates. So don't be afraid to draw the line, hold it, and defend it. The moment you do, you stop being controlled and you start being respected. Not because you demanded it, but because you became undeniable. Toxic people are experts in projection. They take every limitation they place on themselves, every excuse they clung to, and project it onto you like it's your truth. You can't do that. Be realistic. That's not possible. But what they're really saying is, I never had the courage to try, and I don't want you to prove me wrong. The moment you start thinking bigger, speaking bolder, and acting like you actually believe in yourself, they'll feel threatened. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something they never could. And that's the real threat. You expose their comfort zone for what it is, a cage. Their doubt is not a reflection of your capability. It's a reflection of their fear. They're afraid that if you rise, they'll be forced to confront the fact that they chose to settle. And people who've made peace with mediocrity will always resent the ones who choose more. But here's where your power begins. You stop internalizing their limits. You stop carrying their fear as your own. Let them call you crazy. Let them mock your ambition. Because their laughter doesn't stop your work. Their skepticism doesn't cancel your vision. The only way their doubt wins is if you agree with it. You have to learn how to take their doubt and use it as fuel. Every sarcastic comment, every dismissive glance, every backhanded compliment, it all becomes energy. Not anger, not bitterness, but power. Let it push you further, let it challenge you to go harder, train longer, build smarter. Because nothing stings a toxic person more than watching the very thing they doubted become undeniable. Turn their rejection into redirection. Let the "you can't" become your battle cry. And when you reach the finish line, you won't even need to say, "I told you so." Your success will scream it for you. The most dangerous thing about toxic people is they're subtle. They don't always scream their doubt. Sometimes they wrap it in fake concern. "I'm just looking out for you." Don't set yourself up for disappointment. But behind those words is the same poison fear disguised as advice. If you're not careful, you'll drink it. You'll start hesitating. You'll start second guessing your ideas. And before you know it, you'll be living a life that's safe, small, and not even yours. That's why you have to recognize the difference between wise counsel and disguised control. One lifts you, the other traps you. There comes a point when you have to decide whose voice matters more, yours or theirs. Turn their rejection into redirection. Let the "you can't" become your battle cry. And when you reach the finish line, you won't even need to say, "I told you so." Your success will scream it for you. The most dangerous thing about toxic people is they're subtle. They don't always scream their doubt. Sometimes they wrap it in fake concern. "I'm just looking out for you." Don't set yourself up for disappointment. But behind those words is the same poison fear disguised as advice. If you're not careful, you'll drink it. You'll start hesitating. You'll start second guessing your ideas. And before you know it, you'll be living a life that's safe, small, and not even yours. That's why you have to recognize the difference between wise counsel and disguised control. One lifts you, the other traps you. There comes a point when you have to decide whose voice matters more, yours or theirs. You've heard their doubt. Now it's time to believe in your own power. You don't owe them a watered-down version of your dream. You don't need their permission to rise. The truth is, they're already watching you. They're already aware of your potential, even if they pretend not to be. They see it. That's why they're trying to kill it before it blooms. But they're too late. Because once you start moving in your power, nothing they say can stop it. They can doubt you all day, but if you stay focused, they'll be forced to watch you win. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of other people's disbelief. That's their burden to bear. Your job is to stay locked in on your vision, even when the world around you doesn't understand it. Even when your closest circle questions it. That vision was given to you, not them. And what they label as arrogance is often just clarity. You're not being too confident. You're being convicted. So let them talk. Let them doubt. And you keep building. Because eventually they'll realize the storm they tried to drown you with only ended up watering your roots. Toxic people don't just attack your choices, they attack your identity. They aim for the core of who you are, because if they can make you doubt that, everything else begins to crumble. They'll question your intentions, mock your passion, and twist your values until you start wondering if you're the problem. This isn't accidental, it's strategic. When someone can't control you, they try to control how you see yourself. They want to break your reflection. And once your self-image is fractured, you become easier to manipulate, easier to guilt, easier to keep small. That's why protecting your identity is not optional, it's essential. You have to know who you are so deeply that no insult, rumor, or rejection can shake it. Because if you don't define yourself, the world will do it for you, and the world, especially toxic people, will always underestimate your power. They'll try to label you too emotional, too intense, too ambitious because your truth makes them uncomfortable. But your job is not to be digestible. Your job is to be real. You weren't born to fit into anyone's limited narrative. You were born to rewrite your own. And that means owning your story, your strength, and your scars without apology. Every time you reclaim a part of yourself that they tried to erase, you get stronger. When you speak up instead of staying silent, when you choose peace over people pleasing, when you walk away from disrespect instead of justifying it, you send a message. Not just to them, but to yourself. You say, I know who I am. And that's dangerous for someone who only feels powerful when you feel confused. Self-awareness is rebellion to those who rely on your insecurity. And once you stop needing their validation, you become untouchable, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. Toxic people want you to live in doubt, because doubt makes you manageable. They'll celebrate your failure, dismiss your growth, and minimize your wins. It's not because you're unworthy, it's because your evolution makes them question their own stagnation. But you don't owe them comfort in your transformation. You don't have to explain why you're healing, growing, and elevating. You don't need a permission slip to evolve. Let them whisper. Let them twist your story. Because every version they create is still a reaction to your impact. And impact doesn't come from pretending, it comes from authenticity. From owning your truth no matter who can't handle it. Because when your identity becomes rooted in truth, no lie can uproot it. You stop bending to fit in places you've outgrown. You stop dimming your light to soothe someone else's shadows. You stop apologizing for the space you take up. And the moment you do that, you become everything they said you couldn't be and more. There comes a moment when you must stop waiting for the world to give you permission and start walking in your purpose unshaken, uninvited, and unstoppable. Toxic people will never give you a green light to move forward. Why? Because your movement threatens their stagnation. Your progress is a mirror to their procrastination. They see you rising, and instead of being inspired, they get defensive. But this is where most people shrink. They pause. They second guess, they wait for approval. But let me be clear, you don't need their permission to grow. Your destiny is not up for debate. If you keep waiting for their blessing, you'll miss your breakthrough. You must stop shrinking to make others feel safe. Playing small doesn't serve the world, and it definitely doesn't serve you. Toxic people don't want you to take up space, because the more space you claim, the less room they have to manipulate. But shrinking is a betrayal of your calling. Every time you dim your fire to comfort their insecurity, you betray the version of you that's waiting to be unleashed. There is no reward in being less than you are. Own your power even when it rattles their silence. Even when it disrupts their control. You weren't born to be tolerated, you were born to dominate. Stop seeking validation from people who secretly want you to fail. They won't clap when you win, because your success reminds them of everything they chose not to chase. Toxic people will pretend to support you while quietly rooting for your downfall. But here's the truth. Their silence when you succeed is louder than any applause they've ever faked. Don't get distracted by their lack of celebration. You weren't meant to perform for their approval. When you know your path is aligned, you don't beg for confirmation. You move with conviction. Let their silence fuel you. Let their absence be your clarity. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Proof is for people who doubt you. Purpose is for people who know themselves. Toxic people feed on your need to explain. They'll keep poking holes in your vision just to keep you talking, keep you doubting, keep you chasing their recognition. But you are not here to convince the blind to see your light. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Don't waste your breath trying to make them care. Move in silence. Build in private. Let your growth be your gospel. The right people will feel it. The wrong people will fear it. Either way, keep going. Every time you choose to rise in the face of opposition, you reclaim your power. And understand this opposition is often a sign you're doing something right. The attacks, the gossip, the distance, it all increases when you step into alignment. Toxic people will try to distract you from your assignment because your assignment threatens their comfort. But that's not your burden to carry. Keep building even when they mock you. Keep dreaming even when they doubt you. You weren't made to blend in with dysfunction. You were made to break the cycle. And breaking the cycle requires bold moves that make small minds uncomfortable. So walk like you're already chosen. Speak like you've already arrived. Act like the doors are already open. Because that kind of energy creates momentum. You are not waiting for opportunity, you are becoming opportunity. When toxic people try to plant seeds of fear, plant forests of faith instead. When they try to box you and expand. When they try to silence you, amplify your voice through action. You are not too much. You are not too loud. You are not too bold. You are exactly what they said you'd never become. And that's your power. Keep walking like it.s. Oh, here's the truth, the life you're building. It won't be understood by everyone. And it's not meant to be. Toxic people will talk, doubt, criticize, and try to drag you back into the shadows they're too afraid to leave. Let them, because you don't rise for them. You rise in spite of them. Every step you take forward is a declaration. I'm no longer available for disrespect. I'm no longer shrinking to fit small minds. I'm no longer apologizing for my power. You weren't born to survive toxicity, you were born to outgrow it. To break patterns. To rewrite the story. To live so fully, so freely that anyone who tried to chain you down can only watch as you soar. This life you're stepping into, it's bigger than their opinions, stronger than their projections, louder than their doubt. So protect your energy, guard your vision, own your truth like your life depends on it, because it does. And when they try to bring you down, just smile. Not because you're unaffected, but because you're untouchable. Keep rising, keep roaring. And never forget your light is too powerful to be dimmed by people too afraid to shine.